You know, when you think of great historical empires, a few big names probably pop into your head, right? The Romans, the Mongols. But what if I told you there was another one? A massive, powerful empire that dominated huge parts of Asia and Europe, an empire that went head-to-head with Russian Tsars, and then was pretty much forgotten. Today, we're diving into the lost empire of the Tatars.
A powerful empire that vanished from history? I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a movie, doesn't it? A superpower that shapes an entire continent and then just fades away. But the thing is, the Tatar Empire was very, very real, and its story is one of an incredible rise and an equally dramatic fall.
So, okay, who were the Tatars exactly? Well, originally they were a collection of Turkic-speaking tribes, real masters of the huge, open steppes of Central Asia and northern China. But these nomadic groups weren't just going to stay scattered forever. History had a much bigger plan for them, to forge them into one of the most feared military forces of their time.
Now, to really get the Tatar story, you first have to look at an even more famous empire they helped create. You see, their journey really kicks off in the shadow of the Mongols.
That's right. When Genghis Khan started his unbelievable conquests back in the 13th century, the Tatar tribes were absorbed right into his incredible military machine. They were amazing horsemen, phenomenal warriors. They became an absolutely crucial part of the Mongol army, helping to build the biggest single land empire in the history of the world.
But here's the thing, the Tatars weren't going to stay in anyone's shadow. As the massive Mongol empire started to crack and break apart, the Tatars saw their chance. They stepped out into the spotlight to write their own chapter of history.
You can really look at their whole story in three big acts. Act 1, the 13th century, they're a key part of the Mongol machine. Act 2, the 15th century, they break away and form their own independent states. These are called Khanates. This was their golden age, but it put them on a direct collision course with a rising power just to the west, the Russian Empire.
So as that Mongol Empire broke up, several really powerful Tatar states, the Khanates, basically kingdoms ruled by a Khan, rose up from the pieces. The really big ones you need to know are the Crimean Khanate down by the Black Sea, the Kazan Khanate on the super important Volga River, and the huge Siberian Khanate way out east. And these weren't just leftovers, they were major powers in their own right.
And make no mistake, these Khanates were seriously powerful. The Crimean Khanate, in particular, was a military force you did not want to mess with. For centuries, it was a huge player in Eastern Europe, constantly raiding its neighbors, including that growing state of Russia. They weren't just hanging on, they were projecting power.
But you know how these stories go. No empire lasts forever. And while the Khanates were in their golden age, the whole power balance in that part of the world started to shift in a big way, and it spelled trouble for the Tatars.
Here's the problem. The Tatar Khanates, even though they were strong, were still pretty divided. Meanwhile, Russia was doing the exact opposite. It was pulling all its power together under one ruler, the Tsar, modernizing its army, and it had big ambitions. It was kind of like a classic story of a divided system facing a new, unified, and hungry force. You could just see the scale starting to tip.
And that tipping point? You can pretty much nail it down to a single, crucial year, 1552. Remember that date. It's really the beginning of the end for the independent Tatar states.
In 1552, Tsar Ivan IV, you probably know him as Ivan the Terrible, marched his armies east and he conquered the Khanate of Kazan. This was a massive, massive blow. It wasn't just about losing a key piece of land, it was this huge psychological moment that basically kicked the door wide open for Russia to just keep on expanding.
So after Kazan fell, the other Khanates were picked off over the next couple of centuries. And this next date, 1783. This is the year the final light of Tatar independence was snuffed out for good.
In 1783, the Russian Empire, now led by Catherine the Great, officially annexed the last major independent Tatar state, that powerful Crimean Khanate. And with that, the political story of the Tatar Empire was over. Their independence was gone. But here's a question. When an empire falls, does everything it ever built just disappear with it? For the Tatars, the end of their political power was not the end of their story, not even close. Their real legacy turned out to be something much stronger than armies or borders.
So, was that it? Was that the end of the Tatars? Absolutely not. In fact, this is where the story gets really, really interesting. Because while the armies were defeated and the maps were redrawn, the Tatar people and their incredibly rich culture, they survived.
The Tatars' true legacy, the thing that lasted, was their culture. Their unique Turkic language, their amazing traditions in literature and music, their distinct art, and their strong Islamic identity. An army can't conquer those things. This cultural bedrock is what allowed them to survive as a people.
And this isn't just ancient history we're talking about. The Tatar culture is alive and thriving today. Millions of people who call themselves Tatars live all across Russia, Ukraine, and other parts of the world, carrying on the language and traditions of their ancestors. So yeah, the empire is gone, but the nation is still here.
And that kind of leaves us with a really fascinating thought to end on, doesn't it? The story of the Tatars really shows you that an empire is built on borders and armies, sure, but a culture is built on identity, on language, and on memory. And sometimes that can be way more powerful and last a whole lot longer.